Hello, I'm Cindy Sheehan. This is a new installment of my intermittent vlogcast, video blog, and podcast put together. I think I may have coined that term, but I'm not sure. And I want to just wish you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever it is, wherever you're watching this right now, because of course it's not live. So today, what I want to talk about is the brouhaha this week that I was surprisingly involved in when Donald Trump apparently called the widow of a special ops force that was a soldier who was killed in Niger. And apparently he said something that upset the family. And he said that at least your loved one knew what he was signing up for. And of course, I just want to say that my son was killed in I don't even know where my son was killed. My son was killed in Iraq in 2004. And I don't know how many times people, mostly Republican war supporters, have said to me he knew what he was signing up for, like he deserved what he got because he knew what he was signing up for. Well, maybe in special ops forces, they know what they're signing up for, but certainly, working class, poor working class young people and young people from the inner cities, young people of color who have little opportunity in their lives, they are presented with these amazing opportunities. And I want to say opportunities because the definitely recruiters lie worse than used car salesmen. And my son Casey, when he was recruited, he was promised that he would get his college paid for. And not only would he get his college paid for, he already had earned an AA degree before he signed up, but they would give him a laptop computer. He would be able to sign up for local college courses wherever he was stationed. He would be able to sign up for online courses so he could complete his college. And whenever he went to his superior before the war started to get approval to go to school or, to ask where his laptop is so he could sign up for courses, he was denied or he was put off or, he was told they were too busy for him to do things like that. He was promised a $20,000 signing bonus when he finally completed boot camp and got his signing bonus. It was a fraction of that. And the one thing that his recruiter promised him that wasn't in writing, but everything that was in writing, the government broke that agreement. And the recruiting agreements are basically one-sided. They're on the recruit. They're not on the government. So anyway, the one thing his recruiter said that was supposed to make me feel better was that he was such a high-valued recruit. He had already completed a college education. He scored really high on the ASVAB test, which is the military placement test, and he was an Eagle Scout. They said he was a high-value recruit, that even if there was combat, he wouldn't ever see any, that he would only be in war in a support support situation. Well, he got to Iraq, Baghdad, Sadr City, a few days before April 4th, 2004. We know what happened on April 1st, 2004. Some Blackwater security mercenaries were hung from a bridge, badly burned, beaten, and not because the people of Iraq loved them for liberating them, but because they were doing horrible things to the people of Iraq. And then an uprising started in Sadr City, and Casey as a Humvee mechanic, told people he wouldn't be able to kill anybody. And so he was forced to go on into the combat, according to one of his friends who was right there, who told me about this much later. And so, of course, our young people don't know what they're getting into. If they knew what they were getting into, they wouldn't get into it. And then this promise of education when they get out, it's really hard to access for many young people. I've been told by young Iraq and Afghanistan vets that, you have to be very committed to getting your benefits when you get out. It has to be like a full-time job to get your so-called benefits. But many of our young people, they don't come back in any kind of condition to fight for something that was promised to them. They come back barely holding on. And of course, we have found out when Obama was president that 8 Iraq, Afghanistan veterans per day commit suicide, and dozens of U.S. veterans every day commit suicide. Up to 1/2 of the homeless population at any time could be veterans. So this country pays lip service to supporting veterans, supporting the troops. So that's one part. Our young people have no idea what they're signing up for, because they're signing up for lies. They're signing up a contract that's based on lies. They're signing a contract that the recruiter fully knows it's going to be broken. The recruiter doesn't tell them about PTSD. The recruiter doesn't tell them that these benefits are going to be almost impossible to access when they get out of the military, if they get out. And so that's one thing. Another thing, and the question that people are jumping all over Trump because they said he was rude to the family, and there's really nothing you can say to a family in that situation that's going to make them happy. But I can understand how his phone call could make them feel worse. But the other thing is, what is the United States doing in Niger? Did you know that the United States had hundreds of so-called advisors in Niger? Of course, Niger is rich in every kind of mineral, and that just makes us recall the yellow cake uranium that Saddam Hussein was supposedly buying from Niger, and which former Ambassador Joe Wilson exposed, and in turn, as a lie, and in turn, the CIA exposed his wife, Valerie Plame, as an asset. And, and I'm not saying that it's good to be a CIA asset, but, politically motivated outings and, attacks aren't good either. And this all happened during the Bush administration. Now, another aspect of this whole thing in Florida is that many people now talk about me and how, George Bush and his administration treated me after I started making a public protest against administration. And I'm not talking about Rush Limbaugh's. I'm talking about the so-called liberal media saying how kind George Bush was to me, and in contrasting it with Trump, and how it's amazing that the Trump administration has made the Bush regime, palatable to liberals. And it doesn't matter if George Bush would get up and trash the evil people of our, let's just talk about since 9/11. Let's talk about Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, who was at war against the world, mostly the Muslim world, his entire presidency. Hillary Clinton, who laughed at the brutal assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, the destruction of Libya. Let's say if George Bush even got up and trashed his dad and trashed Dick Cheney, that wouldn't make George Bush a good person. George Bush and his administration are responsible for the murder, the displacement, torture, destruction of Iraq and Afghanistan. Millions of people, babies are still being born with birth defects. Well, just look at Vietnam. They're still being born with birth defects from Agent Orange. Young Vietnamese children are still playing with landmines. It's just the legacy of this country is appalling. And to even if George Bush treated me kindly, which is not the case, George Bush and his attack dog, namely Karl Rove, made my life a living hell because I decided to protest the wars. If he was so kind to me, why did I end up in jail, a couple dozen times while George Bush was president, and many times after Obama was president too? But if I was so so welcome to express myself, why did I find myself in handcuffs so many times? Why did his attack dogs, call me like such things as attention whore? Karl Rove called me a clown. I mean, that doesn't sound like they were very kind to me or nice to me. I was never invited in to have that discussion that I wanted. What noble cause? That was never addressed. And um, the whole controversy over what Trump said, he didn't know what he signed up for. That what's not being addressed is U.S. presence in Niger. When Obama was president, AFRICOM was expanded dramatically. Of course, the United States is in Africa militarily to control its resources. The people there are starving, and those are the things that need to be addressed. Why is the United States still in the Middle East? Why is the United States in Africa? We need to not put George Bush up on some kind of pedestal just because he's being critical of Trump. The enemy of my enemy is not my friend. Sometimes maybe, but certainly not in this case. So please, let's look at these things critically. I'm Cindy Sheehan. This is my Soapbox vlogcast. If you'd like to support Cindy Sheehan Soapbox, you can go to cindysheehansoapbox.blogspot.com. Peace out for now. Revolution forever.